Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our 2019 Kayaking Championship, our pre-competition one before championships here. This is Zach Cintron, the sports director. We also have Steve Bennett here, who will be assisting on questions and other sorts of things, moderating tonight. We are going to go through this relatively quickly. Again, a lot of this information you guys have seen. A lot of it carries over from time trials, so it's not stuff that we have to reiterate and hit too much. We're going to hit mostly new highlights and stuff like that. But also remember, going through the webinar tonight, that you can ask questions. You can type it into the GoToWebinar system, or you can raise your hand and we will open up the phone line. Again, we'll probably open up phone lines as we get to the questions section. And as far as questions go during the webinar, we will probably answer them there as well, unless it pertains to a topic that we are directly on. Other than that, again, this is being recorded. We will take the recording and we will post it on the coach's resource page if you want to watch it again. If you need to see the slides again, they will also be there to be downloaded. Quick run through of the agenda tonight. We're going to hit the schedule, some updates on parking, facility layout with a few tweaks to championships compared to time trials, some of the logistics. We'll hit the course maps and some updates there. And then just some rule reminders that we'll blow through pretty quickly because most of them are the same from time trials. And then we'll hit our Q&A session there.
And Mike Sarnowski, if you're on the line or if you're muted, could you just let us know that you can hear us okay?
Yes, I can hear you okay.
I just want to check. Thank you very much.
And we are going to keep rocking and rolling here.
This is Steve Bennett. Again, the kayak drop-off schedule. As you see, there's a couple counties that will have them already in place on Friday. If you have any questions for those, St. Mary's, Kent County, and Frederick dropping off on Friday, just contact Zach directly. For those of you dropping off on Saturday, Montgomery and Arundel, Upper Shore, Hartford, and Carroll, pretty much the same thing. Really need to stick to these time frames. If not, maybe even a little earlier, and you'll see why in a little bit. But it's the same thing. Just be patient with us. We'll have some security people in the streets as well, but it'll be me and Rick McCauley to help guide and direct you guys. So we'll talk about that in a little bit as well.
Perfect. Just to note, if Howard County and Lower Shore are looking for themselves, you guys are using Jack's kayaks. So I didn't put you on here because they will be at the facility. Here's the schedule for Saturday. Again, we're hitting that 7:30 start with unloading trailers and kayaks. We'll get that rocking and rolling. Volunteer registration's at 8 o'clock again. The idea for this weekend is we would like to have all participants and delegations in the parking lot right at the boathouse by no later than 8:15. We'll elaborate that in the parking section after this. There's another event that is occurring next door, so we are trying to get out of their way because they will then be getting out of our way, and we're trying to work hand in hand with them. Volunteers will get their trainings at 8:30, delegation check-in at 9 o'clock. We will have our coaches meeting prior to opening ceremonies this time. It's going to be at the same exact spot that we did it last time. It'll be on the shore at the beach there. As a reminder, for those that do a course preview, if you're going to take your athletes out, all kayaks have to be off the water at 9:45 for safety reasons, and also because we're starting opening ceremonies at 10. After that, we're going to start staging boats about 10:20-ish, probably hopefully 10:15-ish. I will say if we have the folks that we need there for the first handful of races, we will get them staged even earlier than that. We will try to actually even stage them before opening ceremonies, which will give us some leeway in getting our startup off of the ground a little bit quicker. From there, you'll see our schedule. It's the same schedule that's been run at past championships. We're going to start with the 500-meter races. We always start with our unified races or double races, and that'll go for every distance type. Then we'll go into the 100-meter, 200-meter, and then the 1K. Traditional and the unified team that we have, we will run together for the 1K. We want it to be more inclusive than just the one unified team being out there on their own. Again, lunches will more than likely be available at 11:30. We will make an announcement again to send somebody to pick up your lunches, but we'll hit that later. And the conclusion of the event is scheduled for 4 at the moment. So here's the parking stuff. Parking will be similar to time trials, except the biggest thing is we will most likely not have access to the Wilmer Park parking lot. Everything else that we had access to for time trials, we should have access to the morning of. The biggest reason is because they are having a color run. The Sheriff's Department for Chestertown is running a color run as a fundraiser, and it'll start out of Wilmer Park and run past the boathouse starting at 8:30. Again, that's why we are asking you for not only your trailers and your boats and people that need to potentially drop off and then repark vehicles to be in before 8:15, but also anybody that has the 2 parking passes for your delegations, make sure you let them know that they need to be in by 8:15 as well. Again, make sure you have your 2 names for the parking passes submitted to us. We are going to hand that off to Public Safety for Washington College, and they are going to be working off that list. We are trying to avoid that if you do not send in a name and somebody rolls up and says, hey, I have a parking pass for this county, this is my name, and they're not on there, that there's any sort of confrontation or conflict with that. Again, if you get us all your names, you can email them to me. We will get them taken care of, and they'll be set up and good to go to get into that parking lot right at the boathouse.
And that was, there were a couple issues at the time trials that people either forgot their parking pass or said someone else has mine, I'm supposed to get it here. So again, we've got to really be mindful of that situation. So make sure you've got all your T's crossed and I's dotted for the parking passes and then the names into Zach.
Yeah, and again, a reminder, the public safety folks from Washington College are there to help guide your folks and you for parking. They want to spend as little of their day enforcing things and telling people that they cannot do things, and they will be stationed at multiple parking locations. Again, this is the parking map from last time. We should have access to all the same parking except for that Wilmer Park general parking, and we've also had conversations with public safety about additional parking if it's needed. So there is an additional parking plan if we need to add more.
And just so everyone knows, Zach's done a really good job working with the college and the public safety. But Wilmer Park, as Zach mentioned, will not be available, and I believe that's about almost 50 spaces that we took up at time trials that we need to relocate to other parking areas. So again, I think the key thing is just work with public safety and work with everybody, get there on time as early as you can, and we should be good to go.
Again, this is a look at the venue map. The key is down at the bottom. It gives you an idea. The layout will be exactly the same. The only addition for this competition going from time trials to championships is adding awards next to the delegation area where you guys all had your easy ups and pop-up tents set up, and the addition of opening ceremonies on the front deck in the morning. Other than that, everything else has the same setup. Obviously, competition's in the same spot. Volunteer check-ins in the pavilion. Kayaks, we're going to be staging in the same areas. Other than that, everything's in the exact same spot, so no major changes of the facility except for the awards location. Some logistical things. Again, for delegation registration, if you could have one coach check in your delegation, we will get you guys your packet, and we'll get you guys set up and ready to go for the morning. And while one of your coaches is doing that, you can then be unloading your kayaks and setting up your easy-ups and pop-up tents and all that kind of stuff. The biggest thing when it comes to registration and check-in, when you guys are getting your kayak set up this time, we are not only asking for your name of the athletes to be on each kayak, but the bib number, which you will also get as part of your final delegation report that I will be emailing out soon. So if you could please get both the name and the bib number on there, we have found it that it'll be easier to call bib numbers instead of names, especially if somebody forgets exactly what a name was. It's a lot easier to remember 3 digits of a number. Again, reminder that we are going to have our brief coaches meeting at 9:30, same location as last time. I'll give you any day of updates, any potential changes, and just some reminders about stuff that we're talking about tonight. Opening ceremony will be held on the front deck of the boathouse. So essentially where you checked in and registered last time, right in front of the control center, that is exactly where opening ceremony will be.
Again, with the parking and delegation setup and everything, Again, all the kayaks will be unloaded there in the staging area. As Zach said, with those first races going off, we want to have those on the beach and staged prior to opening ceremony. So once we get in, once their opening ceremony concludes, we go right into the competition. We're asking for, at the trailer parking, we're hoping that we have one or two people to actually help and guide and assist people to park with the trailers and the other people who have the passes. Again, we mentioned Wilmer Park. Delegation spaces. Again, with the awards area there, we are going to block off some of that grass area right in front of the boathouse for spectators and for picture taking during the awards process. But otherwise, you'll be able to be out in that grass area as you were at time trials. The big thing there is we do not have access to Wilmer Park again. So I know there was one or two delegations that were over in the grass park area in Wilmer Park. So we want to have everybody back on the boathouse side as far as delegations and spectators, etc. The other thing I know over in Wilmer Park, you have a lot of space to spread out for time trials, but you don't hear the announcements, although I'm sure you had someone from your delegation over near the PA system. So again, I think it's just a mutual, just respect each other, give each other a little space, and want to have everybody have a great experience there at the spectators and everything else.
One more quick note, like Steve mentioned about hearing announcements, we highly recommend that you have one or two coaches or volunteers down towards the staging area to, one, help your team get staged. We will have volunteers that will be handling getting the kayaks, setting them up, staging them. But if there's any confusion on names or who's in what boat, that'll be greatly helpful to our volunteers. But also to hear the announcements when they're called for what divisions we are looking to stage. It'll be a little different this time because we will also have the awards next to the delegation spot. So you'll have two PAs announcing two different things, and we just want to make sure you're able to hear both throughout the day.
Zach, we do have one or two questions here real quick, if you could address. First is the question about what is going on the kayaks. Are we using bib numbers or boat numbers or both on the kayaks?
When it comes to the boat numbers that I requested, there's no need for those boat numbers at all at this point. Essentially, as a reminder to everyone, what those boat numbers were for is that we requested them to take a look when we're doing the divisioning, just so we have an idea of who's in what boat, and if we have athletes sharing boats, that gives us an idea of looking at divisioning and trying to get away from as many of those hot swaps on the deck as possible. So you don't need to worry about boat numbers. The things that we want labeled on the kayaks with the duct tape and marker are the athlete's name that is in the boat and their bib number, which you will be getting as part of their delegation report.
And one other quick question was in regards to announcing and stuff. Question was, will athletes be called for events by their name and bib number? The bib number is obviously on their back and they can't see it, but the athletes will be called by their name and by delegation. So the bib number will only be used primarily in the staging location for the people assisting to get the boats down to the water for staging in preparation for the races.
Yeah, and additionally, the primary call for announcements for what we are staging usually comes by division, which will be on your heat sheets as well. So usually that is the very first call, and then the secondary call is also by athletes and their name in those divisions.
So that's a lot. If we're missing an athlete or a last minute reminder, if we don't have an athlete showing up, that's when that will be. But as Zach said, just pay attention to the announcements for the division numbers.
All right. Rolling forward here. Access to the dock, again, only from 9 o'clock to 9:45 in that course preview window. Not during competition. We will have those signs up again. Only competitors and volunteers on the dock. The only situation that we want other folks on the dock is if we have a conversation with a coach or a volunteer that one of those hot swaps are required out there. We will need your assistance to make that swap possible and smooth. But at that point, we will have had that conversation and we will give you approval to be out on the dock. Again, remind your other coaches and volunteers, your family members as well, that while it would be great to be on the dock because it is a great view, we need that for competition area and we need that as open as possible. A great place for them to spectate is the pavilion. You can get a very good view of the whole course from there. Lunches and meals Lunches will be the same thing again this time. We got pretty good feedback on Redner's being good lunch options. Thank you all for getting your lunch orders in. That's extremely helpful, not only for us to place the order, but to get the order back out to you when you show up for lunches. So again, thank you all for getting those lunch numbers in. And the other note that I want to make on here is, besides for us announcing when lunches are available, families and other spectators, we recommend packing a lunch. There will not be food for purchase on site. Again, that is one of our dreams moving forward, is that we potentially have a vendor on site for food purchase, but that is something that we are still working on. So this weekend, remind families to pack lunches, or they can go off-site and come back. Chestertown does have a lot of cafes and little restaurants that they can access right up the road. Course inspection. I'm not going to hit too much on this. Again, the course inspection time is from 9 o'clock to 9:45. The biggest thing that I am going to remind you of is that coaches must accompany their kayakers on the water if they're going out for the course inspection. You guys are in charge of your athletes being out there because we are still working on competition, and safety boaters are preparing other things before the competition, before they get out there. Again, just a reminder, 9 o'clock to 9:45 for course preview. Medical. You probably saw Tracy, who was medical, not last weekend, weekend before, and she was up on the deck right by the control center. For most of the day, that is where she will be. We will have a couple other medical folks strolling around. So if for some reason you need medical, either A, grab a person in an orange medical shirt, grab Tracy, who is on the deck, or grab any of the staff or GMT folks in a purple polo. We will be more than happy to help you contact medical, and they will hop on whatever your needs may be.
And for some reason, if you do see individuals that may not have that shirt on but have a radio, those individuals also will be able to contact medical immediately.
Family hospitality will also be up on the front deck like it was last time. Additionally, along with the general information that family hospitality has about the competition, about other things that Special Olympics offers, about the surrounding area, we will have merchandise available for purchase for this event. So if you want to pass that along to your families as well, we will have merchandise for purchase at championships. Weather update. Weather looks great right now. Going to knock on wood that we're not going to jinx it. We're supposed to get some storms rolling through for most of the week up till Thursday. Just a little bit of rain on Thursday. Friday is supposed to be nice, and Saturday is supposed to be beautiful. Again, competition happens in light to moderate rain. Should weather conditions pick up in any way that makes the water too tough to kayak in or unsafe for our athletes, we will obviously postpone the event. If lightning occurs, we're pulling everyone the second it happens or the second we get a notification on our system. And we ask for lightning situations, either evacuate to your vehicle if it's close on site or into the boathouse. There's plenty of room in the boathouse now that we can shelter folks. Again, we're monitoring weather all throughout the week. I've been watching it the past couple weeks. It's become one of my new favorite hobbies leading up to championships here. But we are on it, and we will let you know if there's a major change. If there's a major weather change leading up to championships and it has to be postponed or canceled or something to that effect prior, we will get that information out to you as soon as possible via email, phone call, text, everything that we have to get a hold of you for your head coaches. There's your weather report going into this weekend. As you can see, we got some wet weather, some storms going up till Thursday, a little bit on Friday. And then Saturday is supposed to be beautiful. The high is 79, so it shouldn't be too hot out. But it will still be very sunny at points. So just a quick reminder to remind your athletes to keep hydrated, get sunscreen on, and make sure they're taking care of themselves throughout the day. We want to make sure that everyone's healthy and safe throughout the whole day. Of course, we'll have plenty of water jugs for you to access. And if you need anything medical services-wise, please reach out to either the medical services themselves or somebody with a radio or a purple polo.
And with that weather coming in, Zach and the crew will be going down on Friday, working with public safety, because a lot of that parking or some of that parking is in the grass area, so we'll have to be mindful of that. If they does get waterlogged, we don't want anybody getting in, getting stuck in, or tearing up the grass areas.
And Zach, thank you on behalf of all the coaches and athletes for taking care of the heat wave. You and your team did a great job on that one.
We try to do our best, Mike. I appreciate it. Again, course map, this is not anything new for you guys. You've seen this before. The biggest note for the course map that I want everybody to know is that we are adding a few extra buoys to the beginning of the course to help give a visual of whose lane is which lane a little bit earlier on. So hopefully that'll help a little bit. And then you can see after the turn for the 1K when they start coming back, there's the dock over there. We are also going to station a few buoys out there so people don't get too wide in their turns, so they know which way to go back and get into a good straight line so they can finish strong. Going to hit some rules reminders here. Again, a lot of this stuff are rules reminders that you guys have seen from time trials and other stuff like that. So I don't think we're going to have to hit every single one. We're going to kind of breeze through and hit the highlights of potential new things or things that we want to double down on. Rules for all events. Again, the start is racers ready, followed by air horn. We will also be waving the flags as usual for hearing impaired athletes that are participating. Again, if an athlete or partner falls out of the kayak during the race, they'll be given the opportunity to get back in. But the safety boaters will use their best judgment if they see an athlete struggling to make the determination if they need to slide in and scoop them up. Rules specific to some of our other races. Again, if an athlete or partner travels outside of their lane during the competition without impeding on another athlete or partner, they will be hit with that 5-second penalty that we will be enforcing at championships here. Something for a reminder for everyone on the call, and also to remind parents a lot of times because they don't have this information directly available to them, is that if there is a 5-second penalty occurred during a race, just because that athlete finishes technically in first as they visually cross the finish line, if there was a penalty incurred, it doesn't mean that they will necessarily be the first place awarded athlete. Sometimes we get a little bit of confusion with stuff like that where, you know, somebody sees an athlete finish in first, second, or whatever, and then they come in second or third, and then we have some confusion and people are upset. So again, just remind folks, remind your other coaches, family members, that wait until the results are posted or the awards are given to assume that a place is what their athlete got. The other big reminder on here that's an update and a reminder is protests must be filed within 30 minutes of results being posted, so not the end of that event, but once results are posted. And if you remember the deck of the boathouse, there's a big whiteboard to the right of the control center. We will be posting the results on there. It's a little bit more accessible than in the windows where we were posting them. Again, once results are posted there, you have 30 minutes to file a protest if you see something that doesn't seem right or you think is a mistake. But again, it is your responsibility as a coach to put in that protest and be checking results for those disqualifications or any results that you think are incorrect. Some notes specific to the 1K event. Again, kayaker that is in the lead has the right of way at all times. Kayaks behind must yield to the lead. Athletes will be called in blocks to staging. Their lane number is how they start for the order of event. Again, the 1K has a run order. We don't run them in groups for divisions and stuff. So just a reminder that their run order is the lane that they are listed in, and you will see that on your delegation report as well. Some reminders on DQs. Not much of this has changed. The only thing that's changed in here from time trials that you'll see as an update, again, is a reminder that the second bullet point, it is the coach's responsibility to check the results board for disqualifications, to relay that information along to athletes and families. Again, it'll be on that whiteboard. As much as we would like to think that we have the ability to communicate that to every individual coach on every individual DQ, we want to make sure that you guys are on top of it because, again, it's your responsibility, and we don't necessarily have the folks to monitor every single result and then hunt you guys down because you guys are all over the place just like we are during the event, but we want to make sure you still get that. So if you guys can double check that, that would be great. Courses and uniforms. Again, course inspection from 9 to 9:45, and we will ask everybody to come off at 9:45 for opening ceremonies. If you arrive late or you're one of the later load-in times, there's a chance that you may not have time for a course inspection. But the good news is the course is the same course as time trials, so there's not too much to change or look at. Uniforms, again, got to wear shirt, shorts, some sort of pants, all practices and competitions, a PFD, life preserver, life vest, type 3 with a whistle attached. Can wear a helmet if your athlete would like to. Water shoes and polarized sunglasses are always recommended because of weather and it being wet.
And Zach, we have a question. If you can go back one slide. Or go back maybe one more to the 1K slide.
Yes.
Talking about, the question was, does that mean if an athlete in the 1K catches up to another athlete that they cannot pass them? No, they can pass them, but they have to go on the outside, the furthest travel distance you can on the outside, basically to the kayaker's right, is where they would need to pass. They can't cut into the inside of that athlete to pass. That's the athlete. The lead kayak has the right of way, but you can definitely pass them. Hopefully that answered that question.
Actually, Steve, also to clarify for folks, what Steve said is 100% correct. This is Mike Sarnowski, by the way. But it is also the athlete who is overtaking or passing that is responsible for avoiding any interference. If there's any interference, it's going to go against that individual. So the person who is passing, certainly they should pass. Hopefully with the time trial scores, it won't be an issue. But if there's any kind of an interference, it's really the responsibility of the athlete who is overtaking the slower kayak.
Perfect. Thanks for that, Mike. All right, let's get caught back up here. Divisions and competition schedules. Again, we will distribute no later than Thursday night on the 22nd for divisions and competition schedules. We will hopefully get that out to you along with your final delegation report, so you will get two key pieces that I highly recommend you print off and take with you. With that said, you will also get them in a delegation packet, which will have, again, delegation reports, bibs with your labels for your events for each of your athletes and partners, and those master heat sheets. Additionally, what we've put in the delegation packets as well is a garbage bag for you to help with garbage cleanup. If you can keep your area clean, that makes the facility much cleaner at the end of the day. And again, we really want to appreciate Washington College allowing us to use their beautiful facility, especially with the new boathouse. So you will be getting a garbage bag in your packet as well. Equipment regulations, none of this has changed. Again, all kayaks should be marked with their appropriate model and make. Athletes and partners must qualify in and compete in a boat that's similar size. If they're competing in a different boat, it has to be a shorter length, so they're not gaining an advantage here. And then same thing with the paddle. We want them using the same style and size. And again, just a final reminder, of kayaks must be labeled with both the name and bib number of the kayakers who will be using it. Again, it'll help us at staging get things organized. And we are thinking that calling a number for getting a kayak for our volunteers will be much easier than giving names. Water safety. Water safety, again, is very similar. Every effort will be made to assist athletes and unified partners in lining up for kayaks at the start. We always have a good chunk of starters there to help get them set up and get them held and ready to go. But again, athletes and unified partners should be trained to be able to maneuver their boat at the start line and get themselves set up. Coaches are not allowed on the water unless we have a previous conversation. Athletes and partners must remain in the kayak at all times while on the water. Legs must be in the kayak at all times, again, unless they fall out, and then please have them make every effort to get back in. And if they need assistance, our safety boaters will be on top of it. Some more coaching reminders. Again, we want to remind everybody that no coaching is permitted from the shoreline for coaches, assistant coaches, family members, spectators, or other delegation members. Again, coaching pertains a lot to specific paddling instructions, and that's not what you should be calling out to athletes. Again, we're going to strongly enforce that going into championships. It popped up once or twice at time trials, and we made a note and we said that we are definitely going to remind everybody. And now that we've had a couple reminders, we will definitely be enforcing it as well. Remind not only your other coaches and your volunteers, but remind your family members too. I know family members can get excited. They can be having a good time out there watching their athletes kayak, but remind them again, coaching instructions, paddle faster, get closer to the center of your lane, go back to your lane if you're in the wrong lane. Those will be considered coaching from the sideline, and that will result in athletes being disqualified for those races.
We have one quick question here that I want to address. One of the questions was, in the 1K, what's the start time difference between, the first kayaker, then the second one? What's the time frame to go out with that? The other thing I will say, when we answer that question, is the other thing is that the 1K, as they go off, it's the fastest athlete, or the athlete with the fastest time will be going out first from the time trials, so that, hopefully we won't have a lot of the backup. But the intervals between the kayakers, I don't remember, is...
Ideally, it's 30 to 45 seconds. Worst case scenario, it's a minute between the two. Mike Myers does a wonderful job at our start line for us, and he's got it almost down to an eyeball science, where he knows where it's going, and he's got a timer running for himself as well. So anticipate anywhere from 30 seconds to 45 seconds being the intervals that we are sending kayakers for the 1K. Awards. This is the other big update. Time trials obviously doesn't have awards. They will be held on the east side of the boathouse. For those of you that were there, it's right next to the delegation section. It'll be held on the deck in the photo below, in the middle of that deck. Athletes and partners, we are going to stage inside of the building there. Those doors roll up like garage doors. So we thought that's a perfect opportunity to get our athletes out of the sun, out of the heat, into an air-conditioned building. So we will stage inside and proceed to parade athletes out as their divisions are awarded. Another thing, again, like I mentioned earlier, is that athletes will be escorted from the water by volunteers. If you have folks that are in the staging area that are volunteers and coaches that can potentially help every now and then when somebody may be looking for an athlete from a division, that would be greatly appreciated. But we will have volunteers assisting from getting athletes, once they get out of their kayaks, to awards for staging. A quick note on the 1K when it comes to awards. Again, like Steve mentioned, the run order for the 1K is fastest to slowest based on the time trials times that came in. Again, we do division them into divisions to be awarded, and it's by that typical Special Olympics divisioning standards, gender, age, ability. So divisions may not run exactly consecutively based on those standards that we put them together. So essentially the idea is, just because the first racer comes in for a specific division and we get them out of the water, doesn't mean their whole division is finished. Their fellow division competitors may be 2-3 kayakers behind them. So we are going to hopefully get them in and out as quick as possible, but they may take a little time to award if there's a 2 or 3 kayaker gap between 1K participants in a division. We will take more questions and answers here. If you have more that have popped up, Steve will take a look at them and pass them along. You can also raise your hand at this point if you have a question and you would like us to open the line. Additionally, I think we have Jack on here. Jack, I'm going to open your line if there's anything that you would like to add going into this weekend.
I'm here.
There you go. We got you.
Okay. The only thing I would mention is that visually, on the 1K, we're starting about 100 meters apart. What I have seen is they usually let them run down just about to the 100-meter stake and before they release the second boat. The only other issue on the 1K is that if a paddler is overtaking another paddler or getting ready to overtake down by the 500-meter turn, and that paddler, the front paddler, goes wide, then the following paddler could cut inside.
Yeah, and Jack, thank you. We did have a question about that, overtaking a lead paddler if they go way off course, and I think, as you mentioned, that's going to be at the discretion or whatever, and we can address that also at the coaches' meeting in the morning to make sure all coaches have that information.
Yeah.
I saw a question that popped up about how many kayakers do we have this year from how many different counties. We have 105 kayakers competing in the championship this year, which that number has gone up, which is great to see that your programs are growing. And it is from 10 different counties this year. So it's good to see. I may have mentioned before, big congratulations to Howard County for their first year coming out and competing. They've done an awesome job along with the rest of you, but it's good to see that our kayaking programs are growing. And then additionally, I saw a question from Alan Seifert. Athlete, given that the athletes' names and bib numbers are marked on the boats, what does it make the length of the boat add that necessary? The length of the boat, Alan, is just that we want to make sure if they're qualifying in a 10-foot boat, that they're not coming and then competing in a 13-foot boat and getting extra inches of assistance. So the name on the boat and the bib number on the boat don't have anything to do with the size of the kayak. And then additionally, like we mentioned before, the boat number that I requested that you give to us, that was specifically for looking at divisions once we got divisions set up to see if we needed to potentially move a division forward or backward in our timing sequence to make sure we're cutting out more of those hot swaps that we've had in the past. The less hot swaps we have to do, the easier the weekend and day goes for everyone on site. Looks like we have a hand raised. Aljank, I am opening your line. You are good.
Okay, yeah, just following up on the whole thing with the boat numbers.
Yes.
So I made up new labels for all my boats that would list, the boat number and then all the athletes on there. You just said something about you wanted those boat numbers in advance. So do I owe you? Sounds like I owe you a list of boat numbers so that you can, or have you already done all the divisioning and it's too late at this point?
We took care of all that stuff already, Alan. It's not a problem. I have a good idea of who's in what boats for you. We'll keep you on the loop in case there's one that pops up. There was one or two that I saw divisioning that we may need your assistance for a quick swap. The rest looked pretty good, but again, we're moving to this setup where next year, ideally, when entries are entered into GMS for time trials event registration deadline, that in the comments for each of your athletes' events, you will also put the boat number so that we can check this kind of stuff as we go through. But I appreciate it, Alan. It's not a big deal.
Okay. Sorry if I missed that in the previous emails. I apologize because I could have gotten that to you because I've had these labels made up for about a week now. So, okay, maybe next year.
Thanks, Al. We have another question here. Let's see. I'm going to unmute Alan Seifert now. Let me find where I need to be and go to webinar. Alan, you are open.
Okay, Zach, I hear your answer to my question, but and the logic is sound, but in order for the logic to apply, wouldn't you need to then in real time be able to go back and check what boats the athletes were in time trials? And if you didn't do that, then I still don't see why. I don't see what the boat length and make adds to the equation at the finals, and it's just more to do.
Alan, that's a good point. Again, having boat numbers will help us double check that. A lot of the information for that we will get from having a boat number. For you, it's a little bit different because you have similar boats for your athletes that you can potentially swap them in and out of. That won't affect the competition as much. This, again, comes down to when we have a scenario where a delegation may only have 3 or 4 boats total, and if they have 2 athletes in boat 4, and if we didn't know that they were both in boat 4 prior to competition and we are divisioning them, if they end up in back-to-back divisions, that means while we could be staging that other athlete to go, we're now waiting for a boat to go all the way out and come all the way back, which slows down the process and creates that hot swap on the dock that needs to happen. We can touch base moving forward offline as well on the boat concerns and the extra work that it's going to make. Maybe there's a way that we can kind of expedite that process going into next year to help you out.
Yeah, I understand everything you're saying. I still don't see the utility of that information at the finals. I don't see how it's going to add to anything in terms of matching athletes and boats, because you've already taken care of that with a couple of cross references.
Yeah, well, let's touch base after the webinar. Even let's touch base when we got some time on Saturday when we're on site, and we can talk through a little bit more. Okay, Al?
Okay.
Thank you. Mark, we saw your question about beach balls and required in the boats. I am going to let Jack answer that question because he'll give you a good explanation. Jack, can you answer about having the flotation devices added into the boats and the beach ball concept?
Okay, could you repeat that question again?
Yep. So Mark is asking a question about the flotation device in the boat and the beach ball concept. Can you give him a quick rundown of the idea behind that?
The idea behind that is if you put a beach ball in the empty volume of the boat and inflate it as much as you can, like I put in beach balls that are, I think, I believe the last time I gave the quote was 14 inches in diameter. That takes care of, occupies the space that normally would be occupied by around 60 pounds of water. And while people don't think much of it, the people that have to rescue a boat full of water run into a problem. One of the issues that I have discovered is that all the boats that come with, quote, cargo tanks, people think of them as flotation tanks, really are not dry back there. They fill up with water. And all of my boats I've taken and put flotation devices in all those cargo tanks, and they're just beach balls. Blow them up and put them in there. And they just occupy space that otherwise would be occupied by water if the boat flips or fills up with water.
Perfect. Thanks, Jack. You definitely have the better explanation on that than me. But again, Mark kind of recapping Jack's explanation. If the boat goes over and the athlete goes out or something, it prevents the boat from sinking essentially. And I don't know if any of you have ever been out on the river there, but it does get muddy towards the bottom, and we do not want boats stuck in the bottom of the river. Lisa asked for us to go back to the slide here for the schedule for the day. Again, this will come in delegation packets. It's in the event guide. You can also find the event guide on our coaches resource page. If you go to our coaches resource page, access it from somd.org, go to coaches. At the bottom of the page, there is a link for all of the coaches resource pages. Once you open that up, there will be one for every sport. And if you click on the kayaking one, it'll give you all the resources and information you need for championships this weekend towards the bottom of that page. I am looking to see if we have any other questions here. Yep. We have a couple hands raised here. I'm going to just do a check through of the raised hands if they still have a question. Al Jank, do you have a question?
No questions here.
Nope, that's an old one. Thanks, Al. Alan Seifert, do you have another question?
No, thank you.
Cool, thank you. All right, it looks like Jack, do you have a question or something that you would like to add?
I want to add two things. One is, Alan, did I answer your question adequately for that you sent out about the number of buoys, et cetera, et cetera? Al Jank?
Hold on, I got to open him back up again. Give me 2 seconds here. Al Jank, you're open again.
Yes, Jack, that you answered everything that I needed to know on that. Thank you very much.
Okay. The second question that came up during this discussion was about the issue of the boat lengths and stuff. And we need to kind of stay with the idea that if you increase the length of the boat by 6 inches, it's going to have additional flotation area and float lighter in the water. Therefore, if you take a paddler that weighs 245 pounds and put them in a 12-foot boat and then come back and put them in a 13-foot boat, it makes a big difference in how well that boat floats. So, and in international competition, they're very strict about this type of thing. The only other thing is some people may question, well, you know, at the time trials, the qualifier, I believe we had a headwind coming up the course. We may have a tailwind going down the course, and this would be around no matter what the issue is. We have a tidal issue, and so far, looking at the tide tables, the tides are all going to be the same. There will be an outgoing period for the 500-meter races, but everybody's going to be going with the outgoing tide. And then for the 100-meter and 200-meter, you're probably going against an incoming tide. But everybody's going to be doing the same water, so it doesn't really make any difference. And then for the 1,000-meter, it's a circular course, so you're going to have the water flow with you, and water flow against you, have wind with you, and wind against you. Again, it evens itself out. The last issue was Mike Myers asked after the qualifier if we could move the sailboat totally out of the way, and I've talked to Ben, and he just said that he can do that. Oh, and one other thing, we're going to put a pontoon boat at the 100-meter out on the water at the 100-meter mark, the time the 100-meter races, and then we'll move it down to the 200 for timing the 200-meter races.
Thanks, Jack, for those updates. One more question that came in on the beach balls is asking about essentially, do they need to be in all boats? Jack, you can correct me if I am incorrect, but I believe some boats have a flotation setup built in. The beach ball idea is more for those that do not have it.
That's correct. If they have a flotation system in a boat that occupies space, as well as gives it flotation, that's fine. Again, the real reason for this, ironically, is not for the safety of the athletes. They're fine with the life jackets. It's for the safety of the people who've got to rescue those boats.
Perfect. Thanks for that answer, Jack. As it looks right now, we do not have any more questions in. If you do have a question, please type it in. Or if you want to ask a question, please raise your hand. If not, I am going to get us back on track with slides here, which will give you a couple seconds to ask those last second questions. If there are no other questions tonight, but you do have one that pops up in the next day or so, please feel free to reach out and email me. My email is down there. Additionally, you guys will be receiving emails with delegation reports and heat sheets in the next day or so. So please check those, get eyes on those, start lining up your kayakers and what order they're coming in for heats and such. And if you have any questions, again, you can feel free to email me back, or you can reach out and give me a call. And quite honestly, the most important thing at the end of the night here is a big thank you to you guys. I know I thanked you guys before time trials, but Time trials also went extremely smooth because you guys did a great job and helped us out when we needed it. If we had questions about your delegation, about your athletes in the boats, you guys were on top of it and did a huge favor for us. Even little things just like paying attention when we're calling divisions and stuff, that is incredibly helpful for getting staging and the smoothness of the event overall. So again, for all the stuff you guys have done this season, for all the stuff that you guys did at time trials, for all the stuff you guys are going to do at championships and beyond, we thank you. Again, without you guys, Special Olympics doesn't happen, and we want to recognize that as much as possible. And we can't wait to see you guys this weekend. Again, on top of that, we also want to put out a special thank you to Jack and all the work that he puts in at the boathouse, out there on the boats with us, help setting up the course and providing opportunities for his athletes and other teams' athletes to come out and use the course. And additionally to Washington College for letting us use the boathouse. If you happen to see Ben running around, thank him when you see him. If you haven't met Ben, we can introduce you to Ben and then thank him. He's been extremely helpful as well. Public safety for Washington College. Washington College as a whole has been unbelievably helpful, and we wanted to get a thank you out to them as well.
And, obviously all the volunteers in the community that come out and support to help run the event. With that being said, as coaches and family members and other parts of your delegation, please take a minute to thank the volunteers out there. Obviously, without them, the event doesn't happen either. So, and then on the token of Washington College, I do want to thank you guys. We did a sweep around the venue as we do at every event at the end. It was very clean. We had one or two things that we picked up. Other than that, thank you guys so much for cleaning up. It makes our job a lot easier to do a final sweep at the end of the day. So please keep up the good work on that front.
Again, thank you, everybody. Have a great night. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out, and we will see you all on Saturday.